Welcome, everybody, to the Season 1 finale in the Salt Lake City franchise here on MLB The Show 25. We will get you caught up with what happened here in Season 1 today and get to the end of this season as we look to build this team, starting from the draft up and acquiring and developing prospects throughout this series. We've made a couple of trades early on in this series, and that started with a few guys bringing in to see what they have, maybe just squeezing some juice out of them to see if maybe other teams maybe misdevelop them. Now, we are very, very bad here in Season 1, and we will get into all of those players that we will see in the future of this series, but we are battling for the worst record in baseball right now. Now, we had a draft last episode, and we got a couple of players that we can really hang our hat on to be future cornerstones of this series, including Esteban Calzado, picked at number 13 overall. Very good pitcher, high strikeouts per 9, but one of you guys did point out in the comment section below that he has a four-seamer that only reaches 89 mile an hour. That is a bit of a concern. So we'll see if he can develop that velocity, and that's probably going to be one of his main training points that we will have early on in his career as well in the minors. And then in their second round, we drafted Calvin Almquist, who is a 20-year-old left-handed pitcher, really good. And we have some good pieces right here with our 1 and 2 guys probably coming in, going to be our top 2 prospects in the organization. And both of them are young, will have time to grow. I just really, really like these two in tandem, a left-hander and a righty as well. So we talked about it a little bit ago, but we did make 3 trades so far in this series. And the first trade that we really made was to acquire Emerson from the Seattle Mariners. But one guy that really made a big impression on me a couple episodes ago was Mike Antico. See potential, now 67 overall. Now we acquired him. He was 65 overall in D potential. He has already progressed to a C potential. So I just want a player lock on him. He's 27 years old. You know, I'm going to give him every opportunity to compete for a roster spot going into next year. And when he played and when we played with him, he's a interesting player. Good speed, good defensively, and he's got some potential with power with his bat. And already pregame on the road, he's signing autographs. Is he already a fan favorite early on in this series? We'll have to see, but he's hitting 300 on a 13-game hitting streak. This is just incredible. Here he is facing the Mets on the road as he faces Sean Manaea on the mound here. Ground ball to first in his first AB. Now that average has dipped down below 300, 0 for 1 in this one. The 50th pitch of the game for Sean Manaea will be a swing and miss. Now, one strength of his Antico is that really good speed. He's at about 80 speed. As you can see, he can get to a lot of balls in the outfield. He's probably going to end up being a corner outfield for us, but he is a little bit of a better fielder than Alek Thomas is in center. So there is a chance that maybe going into next year, he could play center field over Alek Thomas. Who knows? But really, he's got some big swing and miss in his game. He hits the ball hard when he makes contact, but that vision at 29 is definitely his biggest weakness. And he has about a 20 to 25% strikeout rate. So every at-bat he comes up, he has a 1 in 4 chance possibly of striking out. But as you can see, he always has decent timing on his swings, and when he makes contact, he hits the ball hard. If that vision was higher, it definitely would have been harder to acquire him, and that's probably why he was easily let go by the St. Louis Cardinals, because he didn't have much potential, but we're at least getting some good, ABs out of him and really, seeing what he can do. We fast forward a couple of weeks, and that average does dip down to 273, this time playing the Pirates at PNC Park on the road, facing Bubba Chandler, and he hits one well up the middle, and that one will be a single here with a man on first base. And I want to see what he's got. I mean, he's going to be a guy that, like I said, he's going to be in the rotation for the outfield. We have some free agents going into next season, including our right fielder right now, Travis Jankowski. He will have a chance to play in right. And if he just keeps playing like this, if he gets that average to around 260 even as a floor, maybe 250. I mean, that's a good starting point for him in his development at 27 years old. Yes, he's a bit older in his 20s, but here in MLB The Show 25, San Diego Studios did make a tweak to regression and progression. I've seen that players have regressed a bit later in their career than normal, and some have kind of, regressed early in their career. So it's kind of random, at least from what I've seen from my couple of test sims. So Antico's going to be interesting to develop. We did acquire Emerson Hancock from the Seattle Mariners, and we will talk about him a little bit later. But our final trade going into the trade deadline for a guy that I really wanted to take a chance on was Justyn Henry-Malloy, a guy in the Detroit Tigers organization that is kind of a depth outfielder at this point in his career. He only played probably a half season of at-bats last year with the Tigers, but I do like his skill set. It's much like you see with Mike Antico, to be honest with you, but defensively he's not that great. So I think that's the one thing Antico has on him, is that his defense is good, but Justyn Henry-Malloy has a chance to really be maybe a DH or a first baseman for us going forward. And it's going to be up for grabs. He's in his mid-20s at 25 years old. We'll see what he can do. But here, if he just continues to do things like this with men in scoring position, hitting that one hard up the middle, and that will be his first AB with the Salt Lake City Ball Club, and he comes through with an RBI single. He and both Mike Antico made really good impressions in their first games with the Gulls. Ends up with a base hit. Here he is once again later in the game in the bottom of the sixth inning, no runners on, but he will smash this one up the middle for 115 exit velo on that single, but he has some power to his game. And like I said, the big deficiency is really the defense. And that's where he's kind of lacking in what's going to hurt him in this lineup. He's really got to be a great hitter. He's got to be one-dimensional, because since his defense isn't that great, that's the only spot he's going to be able to be, in this lineup. That DH spot, like I said, maybe first base, but I look for a little bit of a better hitter for a first baseman than what he can bring right now. But in his debut with Salt Lake City, he goes 3 for 4. They actually rule that ground ball a single, so he goes 3 for 4 in his debut with us. And then finally, the first trade we made was Emerson Hancock coming over from the Mariners. Now, I won't highlight him with any game highlights here. We saw what he did when we acquired him last episode, but through 7 games starting with us, 58 innings pitched total, 145 whip, but only 1 quality start. Now, I'm not going to value quality starts as much as I will later in this series, because a lot of these pitchers don't have the run support. And a lot of times when you have run support, you have a little bit more confidence on the mound. And that's not something we're giving our pitchers at this point. So I'm really looking at kind of things like fielding, independent pitching, FIP, as they call it, whip as well. And those are probably going to be the most important stat lines here in Season 1. We do have an injury update in our first major injury of this series so far. Patrick Corbin ends up breaking his arm out 1 to 2 months, and that will pretty much sideline him for the rest of the season. And we will not bring him back in free agency anyway. He was just a guy to get us over into Season 2. So now we look at guys in the organization as we near September call-ups as well, and start to look at some of these prospects we have. We don't have many of them to highlight, to be quite honest with you. Johnny Hood was our number 1 prospect a couple of episodes ago, but already he has moved down a couple of spots to number 3. And up come 2 guys here in the top 2 spots, and they are both subscriber recruits. Now, if you have not seen, in my community tab, there is a spot there to submit a prospect, so go check that out. But the first guy we will highlight here is Miracle Maclin. We're going to move him up for the September call-ups, but he is actually really, really good. A strikeout king, 71 Ks per 9, but that hits per 9 is down in the 30s. So we're going to need to develop that a little bit more. But he's having a really good year at AAA, a 111 whip. He's got a 4.1 WAR. So that's actually really, really good at AAA for us. And then behind him at number 2, who's jumped Johnny Hood, is Paulo Sawayama. And Sawayama is a Brazilian middle infielder. And right now, his calling card is really his defense and his speed. He's really good. Now, for custom prospects, I'm not going to change any ratings. I'm going to just rename and obviously make the likeness like you guys do submit. So I try to match, submissions up with players that have a similar skill set to what you are submitting as your strengths and weaknesses. But those two guys are our top two guys in our organization right now as far as prospects go, and there's Johnny Hood right there at number 3. But I want to get back to the task at hand, and that's really replacing Patrick Corbin and calling up a couple of guys for the September call-ups as well at the MLB level. And one guy we moved down after about 100 ABs was Ben Rice. Now, he's a guy that I still have a lot of hope for. He's still 26, and he has struggled when he is at the MLB level. With the Yankees, he hit below 115, and with us, he hit around the same as well. So I definitely just want to get him some development here at AAA. And that's probably what I'm going to do with a lot of these guys. If they start to struggle at the major league level, we're going to move them down to get them some ABs versus some lesser competition, get their confidence going. But how about this here at AAA, facing Jack Leiter? What a way to develop your skills, facing one of the best college pitchers of all time. As here comes Ben Rice, 2-2 pitch here in the top of the 4th inning. He tattoos this one deep to left center field. It stays in the yard and then bounces over the wall for a ground rule double. His 5th double here at AAA. And he's hitting around 240, 250 here. And I just want to see some confidence in his swing. He's got a lot of power versus right-handed pitching, 76 power versus right. His, batting ability versus left-handers isn't great. So there's a big possibility that he's going to platoon in the future, but he is really, really good versus right, just bad versus left. So I hope that, he can really develop maybe hitting versus lefties and maybe become a full-time first baseman. But right now I don't see it, and that's kind of where he's going to be, that platoon first baseman playing versus right-handed pitching. But as you can see, the ball just jumps off of his bat when he does make solid contact. There is a nice single to right field here in the top of the 1st inning in his next game here facing the Rough Riders. As that now brings up Ben Rice in the 2nd inning. Inside pitch, and he turns on this one deep to right field. This one is off of the wall. It does score a runner from first. And look at Rice heading to third. He doesn't have the greatest speed. He gets thrown out. But that was good enough for me to see what he can do here at AAA, getting that confidence in that bat, like I said, and really getting ready to move him up for the September call-ups, getting him at least a month and a half of ABs at the MLB level. But here he does strike out versus Adrian Hauser. Haven't seen Hauser's name in quite a while from the Brewers, and he swings and misses, but a couple of nice ABs from Ben Rice here in these couple of games at the AAA level, and I decided to move him up. And now he's ready to start. Like I said, he's going to start the final 2 months of the season, more like month and a half of the season. As we get ready for the offseason, he's going to need to make an impression. So looking around the league here, Gunnar Henderson is leading the AL in home runs at 35. And like I said, we're at about a month and a half left in the season. Juan Soto looks like he had a big game versus the Braves here, 5 RBIs. And then the Dodgers end up increasing the NL West lead. They're going to win another division probably here in our division. I can't wait for the day we're going to be competing for the division, but it's not going to be this year, probably won't be next year. It's going to be a process for us to really compete here in this division. So here is Ben Rice now in his first AB since being moved back up to the MLB level, facing the Tampa Bay Rays here. And like I said, he's going to hit versus right-handed pitching. That's where he can excel the best. So that's where he will play. But then he gets fooled on that high pitch out of the zone for a swinging strike 3. That wasn't even close to a strike. 0 for 2 in this one as we now fast forward to the bottom of the 7th inning. Inside fastball, and he cannot catch up to that one. That brings it to a 1-2 pitch again. And outside pitch, he goes with it. Solid contact, but it's just a ground ball to the shortstop. And Ben Rice is hitless in his, re-debut with the MLB level. As now we move on to the bottom of the 9th inning. Here is Justyn Henry-Malloy to the plate. He hits one up the middle, and he's been actually hitting pretty well since he came off of that injury after the trade. And he gets a hit here with, one out here in the 9th inning. Now here is Daenerys De La Cruz with a chance to win the game with one swing of the bat. and it's a ground ball into a game-ending double play as the Salt Lake City Ball Club will lose this one at home in front of the hometown fans here. But no surprise, we've lost a lot of games this season. So you can just see here, we're here in the month of September. We have, like I said, quite a few games to go here. So a big thing that I want to do is get our young guys some experience. And here is one of those young guys, Miracle Maclin, who gets moved up towards the September call-ups, and now we start to see what these young players can do, especially these young pitchers, because I think pitching is going to be probably the hardest thing in this series to develop, because right now I don't really know who's going to be in the rotation for years to come. We obviously just acquired Emerson Hancock, but besides him, nobody is really a sure thing to be in the rotation come next season. But here is Miracle Maclin in his first start here, being moved up to the majors. The number one prospect in our organization, his first AB for Arizona, will be a line out, 2 short for the first out. A sigh of relief here as that brings up Geraldo Perdomo to the plate, and he will ground out to third. Can you make it 1-2-3 in your first inning of work facing mighty Ketel Marte, one of the best hitters in all of baseball? This one is skied deep to left center, and it looks like Daenerys De La Cruz will be under that one for the third out of the first. Still looking for his first strikeout as that brings up Eugenio Suarez as he swings that one in the dirt, and there is strikeout number 1. That strikeouts per 9 is at about 71, and that's kind of his calling card, so he feels good to get that first one under his belt as that brings up Corbin Carroll. High heat. 97 on the gun, by the way. He can hit high 90s consistently as that brings up Smith. 6 up, 6 down through the first 2 innings as that brings up Lourdes Gurriel in the 3rd inning. 7 batters in a row retired here for Miracle Maclin. As that brings up Gabriel Moreno. How about number 8? Hitting 285 on the year. He's going to swing and miss also. 4 strikeouts to the first 8 batters. That brings up Blaze Alexander, hitting below 200. And Blaze Alexander gets a hold of this one. That's out in a hurry. 392 for the guy that's literally hitting the worst for this D-backs lineup. And what do you know? The first hit given up is a homer for Miracle. High pitch in the zone this time for Jake McCarthy, who somehow gets enough wood on that one, and it sneaks through the infield for the 2nd hit in a row here for the Diamondbacks. Miracle Maclin now facing Perdomo. Runner is on the move. McCarthy is going to be into 2nd here with another single. 3 straight hits given up for Maclin. That brings up Ketel Marte, the guy you don't want up in this scenario. And it's a slider over the middle of the plate, but it's just going to be a ground ball to short as we get out of this inning with only 1 run of damage done by the Diamondbacks. That brings up Corbin Carroll now in the top of the 4th inning with 1 out, and he gets a 1-out single. That's the 4th hit of the game surrendered here for Miracle. Pavin Smith to the plate now. Outside slider. That pitch is really, really filthy. I've been able to locate that one pretty well in this game. As that brings up Lourdes Gurriel, who hits one well to down the left field line. That one will get all the way to the wall. And that's De La Cruz who comes up throwing, but 96 speed will score all the way from first. And it's 2-0 here for the Diamondbacks. Gabriel Moreno to the plate now. That one's a well-hit ball to right field, but Antico playing in right field today will get under that one. Top 5 now, 75 pitches in this one, and here is another liner to right field, but Antico with that good speed ends up getting to that one. I'm just really impressed by Antico's defense. Every single time I've seen him out in the outfield, he's making plays like this one. Look at Jake McCarthy with the fly ball in the foul territory, and there is Antico again with another great jump on it. He's just impressive, man. This kid was 27, pretty much no MLB experience, and he's making plays for this Salt Lake City team, defensively and offensively. Top 6 now facing Ketel Marte, who was 0 for 2 in this one. Now a 3-2 pitch now. Leaves one up in the zone, And you can't do that. 419 over the wall for Ketel Marte, his 27th of the season. And Maclin's given up 2 home runs in this one. And it's 3-0, but here he bounces back strong versus a Eugenio Suarez. And that's strikeout number 7. Corbin Carroll to the plate now in that 5 spot. He swings and misses. That slider is really fooling this Diamondbacks lineup. That's his 8th strikeout of the evening. And now over 100 pitches facing Smith. 3-2 pitch, and it's a curveball low. 9 strikeouts in Miracle Maclin's debut. And I will take it all day, even despite giving up 3 runs in his outing here. 6 innings pitched. So now on to the bottom of the 6th inning. We do get runners on first and second after Alec Thomas does get clunked, facing Corbin Burns. Burns has surrendered no runs through 6 and now faces Antico, hitting .246. Antico hits this one well, deep to left field. It's gonna be gone. Mike Antico. Oh my goodness, this guy is incredible. I did not expect when I traded for Antico for him to make this type of an impact. You know, he was a guy that I acquired literally just to fill a roster spot at the MLB level. But then when I started playing with it, I was like, he might actually be something. But man, I didn't expect this. Well, he does end up tying the ball game up. But now we move into the 9th inning. Now it's a 5-4 game. And Manny Rodriguez is in for the save late. But he's having issues finding the zone. Now facing Geraldo Perdomo. It's a 3-1 pitch. And the sinker is inside and it's ball 4. So that loads up the bases for Ketel Marte. In his last AB, he went deep. And now we get into a 3-2 pitch. Top 9. Bases loaded. 2 outs. It can't get more clutch than this moment. Manny Rodriguez over the middle, and that was a fastball right down the middle. Now a 3-2 pitch, trying to locate this inside, but he misses his spot. Deep to left field. Marte again, number 2. This time, it gives the Diamondbacks the lead. You've got to be kidding me. And that's just the story of this year. And Manny Rodriguez just misses his spot badly. That was supposed to be low and inside. Ends up getting the outside half where we saw Ketel Marte already hit a home run to left field earlier today. And Chris Taylor comes up in the bottom of the 9th, and it's game over. Wow. What an ending to that game. But what I really wanted to see in this one was how Miracle Maclin looked, and he looked great. Like, obviously, giving up 2 home runs, that's not ideal, but to be honest with you, 9 strikeouts through 6 innings. He did not walk a guy either. Pretty impressive. He did give up 6 hits, so he had a 1 whip in this in his stats here, but pretty good outing for him. So really to end this season, what I really want to do is take a look at some of these top prospects we have at the top of our organization here. And I think that one thing we're going to need to do is sign some young players in free agency that maybe are not getting the chance, kind of like Mike Antico. I want to find those guys that maybe, you know, were given a chance, didn't work out, and maybe can work out here with Salt Lake, especially guys that are going to be willing to take lower salaries. That's going to be a big priority for us because we're not going to be a team that's going to spend a ton of money. There are not going to be a lot of free agents that want to play in Salt Lake City. So we really need to find those guys that are going to be undervalued that we can kind of find and develop, and really just develop more guys through the draft. And that's going to be kind of what we're going to do here in the first few seasons. And we'll just see if these top prospects of ours, even the C potential guys like Paulo Sawayama, can turn into something. So Sawayama is a defensive shortstop. His bat really isn't there. He's hitting .259 at AAA, and he will have a couple of years to develop. But that power is really an issue for him because if he cannot have, you know, solid contact, get on base, he's going to need to develop something in that offense. But his defense is really going to be his calling card. I think he's going to probably end up translating to be a second baseman. I do want somebody more elite defensively to be a shortstop for us, but I think that he has really good potential with his glove. And I think the bat will eventually come around, but it's probably going to take a year or two for us to really see his bat really start to jump. But here he is here in this game. He's 0 for 3 to this point. This is a deep fly ball to right field, but just does not have the power on his bat to really, push that one over the wall and right, even though that was a good pitch to hit. And now in the bottom of the 8th inning, 0 for 3. That average down to 257 now and a few ABs. Now this one low, change up swinging, and it is a strike 3 on the drop, third strike. But he goes 0 for 4. Our Flying Squirrels do end up winning this one, though, 3-2. But I really just wanted to see that young shortstop. And another young shortstop we have is Rocky Anderson. He is also a subscriber recruit. Now, between the 5th and 6th prospects in our organization, not too much of a difference here. But Rocky Anderson, unlike, what we just saw from our other young shortstop, Rocky Anderson has a better bat. But his slugging percentage is only .383. His OPS is a little higher than what we saw from the other guy, but .710 OPS. His WAR is at .9. But I do want to take a look at him because he is a potential for, a platoon guy going into next season at the MLB level. Even though, his overall is low, I think he has a potential with his bat. And kind of what I've seen in kind of limited action when playing with him, he can hit the ball when he makes contact. He has 51 vision. His power versus right is only 41, but his vision being at 60 is actually pretty decent for a prospect. And even though guys have lower overalls in our organization, they're going to get chances to play. And like I said, I don't know when, but I think if you do well at spring training going into season 2, I think some of these guys will get opportunities, and I don't want to rule anybody out. Are these guys going to be like the foundational building blocks of when we're eventually going to be competing for the division and the championship? No. But who knows? I mean, they could develop something, and I don't want to rule anything out. So we end the season 43-119, and I'm pretty sure that's the worst record in the history of the MLB. I think the White Sox broke that last year. That's probably a lot worse for the Salt Lake City Ball Club, but we had no chance this year anyway. It was all about just developing some of our young guys. And looking at the Rockies, they end up winning 30 more games than us, 35 to be exact, which is insane. But I think we have a lot of work to do. But I do see a lot of things that I like here in this organization, especially with some of our pitchers that we have now. We at least have, a core of 4 or 5 pitchers that we can at least develop and see what happens to them. Not saying they will end up being, the future of the rotation, but they will be guys that at least we can hang our hat on that, we'll have as options. And that's really what I want. I want options, especially with, we don't really know what's going to be happening with how we're going to be building this team, who's going to be on the team come the future. But some of these guys, I really, really like. And some of these guys I, have my doubts about, to be honest with you. But a lot of our veterans that we drafted in the expansion draft are probably going to be hitting free agency. So I don't know how many of them we're going to be bringing back. It definitely depends on what the free agent market looks like. And we're probably going to be going after guys early on in free agency that other teams aren't, just because I want to make sure we have a leg up on those guys that are probably middle tier that maybe are getting overlooked. But we do have a Gold Glover, and it's Travis Jankowski. Despite him only hitting .219, which has no effect on the Gold Glove, he did play every day in the outfield. So he ends up winning that Gold Glove. So congratulations to him going to free agency. That hopefully will help him sign with another team. I doubt we'll bring him back, but we could. Who knows how it's going to break. But we'll see how, guys like Alec Thomas will develop in this series. He actually led our team in average, hitting only .243. What's funny is that that's pretty on par with what we saw in episode 2, where we saw the projections throughout the year. He's really, really close to what I think that he was projected at, which was .238. Ends up hitting .243, and that leads the team. Weston Wilson is a guy that's going to stick around. He developed into a B potential at 30 years old. I'm going to keep him on the squad. He's only going to be demanding about $800,000 to $900,000 going into next year, so that's a bargain deal for him. Justyn Henry-Malloy came up to the MLB level. We got him about a month and a half of at-bats. That strikeout rate, though, 25% is pretty bad, and he had a negative WAR. So we're still going to develop him, see what he's got, and it's a decent start to a career with us, hitting 240. Dane Myers was the guy that I had played in the outfield, but he's probably going to be, if not anything but a trade chip going into the offseason. I do plan on making maybe a trade or two to acquire some players. He's going to be a good chip. Mike Antico finishes the year below 240 though, and I thought that he was going to finish around 250, 260. That ends up not being the case, but I do still like his potential in the outfield, and he's going to have a chance to start in the outfield going into next year. Daenerys De La Cruz is interesting because he is a catcher. However, I just don't know about keeping him behind the dish because his arm is only 68. I think one thing I look for as a starting catcher is, do you have a good arm? Can you throw out guys that are trying to steal? I'm not sure if he'll ever be able to be that guy, to have a strong arm that can gun guys out. So I think he could be a potential left fielder, and I might switch his position over officially going into the offseason. We'll just see what free agency looks like, because Henry Davis is still here. And the reason why I'm still on the fence is because Henry Davis cannot hit the ball. 205. Yes, he's great defensively. He's got a 90-plus arm, but if you cannot produce at the plate, I can't really count on you to be, a starting catcher. And I don't want to platoon the two because I don't know if Henry Davis is even good enough at the plate to platoon. So it's just going to be one of those interesting things to look out for when developing this team. Who's going to be the starting catcher? Maybe we'll find a free agent catcher that might come in and just be a stopgap option. With Ben Rice, we moved him up towards the end of the year. And really what I wanted to see from him is just some consistency with his bat, because he had hit below 130. He did raise his average up a bit. And what I wanted to see was, just his recent games here. And you can see he does have a couple of multi-hit games, and I'm actually kind of happy. 187 he finished with an average after, like I said, being moved down. I believe he was hitting it was like 117 or something like that when we initially moved him down. But I'm kind of happy that he got that average up a little bit. So not a bad, last month and a half of the year for Ben Rice. Pitching wise, it was really shaky. There is not much to say about this rotation except Julian Aguirre, who finished with a 3.95 ERA, a 1.25 whip. The quality starts thing, like I said, I'm not going to really, consider that too much. But he did have a 1.5 WAR, so he did have a positive WAR for us. He was over a 1 WAR. Darius Vines was a guy that I drafted thinking that he would eventually be a long reliever, and I think that's where he's going to be. Oscar Noah was our opening day starter, and really, to be honest with you, I took him out of the starting rotation because he was just bad at some point, and it looks like it just stayed bad. A 5.84 ERA, a 1.66 whip. I just don't see it with him. He's probably going to be in the minors next year, just helping out the AAA squad, if anything. I think I might keep him around since he is still cheap. Emerson Hancock is the one guy I do want to develop here as possibly, maybe even an opening day starter going into next year. Now, one thing that, does bother me a little bit with him is that he does not give up. He does not have a good strikeout to walk ratio. He has about 70 strikeouts to 30 walks. I wish that was more of like a 5-to-1 ratio. That kind of worries me a little bit, but he is still in his mid-20s. He still has some developing to do. But our bullpen, we're just going to need some work here, and we'll see how this goes. I don't really have any, strong inklings about anybody in the bullpen right now. Miracle Maclin actually finishes the season kind of rocky, to be honest with you, so I'm not sure he's ready for the show either. And then looking at, just totally, we only have 2 pitchers over a 1 WAR, and that is Julian Aguirre along with Emerson Hancock. So I don't know what our rotation is going to look like next year, but it's going to probably be a lot different than what you see right here. So that's going to do it here for Season 1. I'm excited for Season 2. If you haven't already submitted here in the community tab for a player in this series, make sure to go ahead and do that. And we'll be ready for the offseason next episode already. I wanted to get through Season 1 quick. Season 2 will likely have a pretty similar format because we're not looking to compete, but it's all about developing these players, and we'll see where the offseason takes us. Appreciate you guys' support. Hit subscribe, hit that like button. We'll be back next episode for the offseason. Stay tuned. Let's get it. Let's go.